How to play the Ruy Lopez is one of the first openings when I started chess, so I know mostly everything about this opening. So you have to watch the video until the end. So let's get started. You start with e4. Your opponent will play e5. You play knight f3 to attack the pawn on e5. He will play knight d6 to defend the pawn. You play bishop b5, attacking the knight that is defending the pawn. He will play a6. That's the first move in the Ruy Lopez. If you decide to take the knight and he take with pawn, you take the pawn on e5. Somehow this is a trap because black will play now queen d4, attacking the knight and pawn at the same time. And you have to return with the knight, and then black will take e4, and black is better in this position. So you don't take the knight when you are playing Ruy Lopez. You return to bishop a4. Then he will play knight f6. You castle. If he decide to take the pawn, which really don't happen a lot, but it can happen, you play d4. The idea of d4 is that after he take with this pawn, you open this file and you play rook e1 and pin his knight, and black will have some trouble, but it is still equal if he plays the best moves. So if he take, you play rook e1 to pin the knight. You have to play d5. You take the pawn and you want to play f3, but you have to be careful also when you play f3 in a position like this, because you will open this diagonal. He can put his bishop here and pin your knight, and you will have a lot of trouble. Queen h4, you don't have a lot of defense. Like you need to use these two pieces first. You need to use all your pieces, chess pieces. So if you take, you play rook e1 and you take this, and you don't go for f3. f3 will make some trouble. Let's see f3. For example, he play queen h4. He's attacking h2 with queen and bishop, and if you take the knight, he will not take this right away. He will play the bishop on g4, attacking the queen. If you block it by playing knight f3, he will take, and you have to be careful here, because if he, for example, take with queen, that's a big blunder, because it is a checkmate in 4 moves for black. He will take the rook and then play bishop c5. He take the bishop check and then take the queen checkmate. So you have to take with pawn. You have to take with pawn. Then right now black is completely better. He will not leave the area until he takes some advantage. He will castle long and put his 2 rooks and attacking the queen, and like next move he will play his rook here and you can't really defend it. He have all pieces are attacking, and he can also open this by playing f5, because you didn't read all your pieces. Like you didn't use knight c3, you didn't use your bishop, so you'll have a lot of trouble defending your king. So that's a variation if you play f3. One moment, not this. So we said bishop a4, knight f6, you castle. If he take the pawn, you play d4. He take rook e1, pin the knight. He play d5. You take the pawn attacking knight c6. He play bishop d6 to castle. You don't play f3. You play knight takes c6. Okay, and after like black best move here is to take this. And if you take the bishop, you don't take the bishop. You play king h1. You play queen h4. Now you will sacrifice your rook on e4. He will take with pawn. You play knight d8 check, because you can't stop this checkmate. You will take, you take, you take, and you take the bishop. Now white is still better because you have two bishops and a knight, and you have two rooks and one bishop. White is better in this position, but that's a variation when if you take the knight c6. But let's say he is a beginner. After you take this and he just takes, you take the pawn and he loses rook, and white completely better here. Like, you don't assume that your opponent will play best moves always, but I'm showing you the best moves to understand the opening and to understand what you should do if your opponent played the best moves. You have to make sure you have to understand the opening, not only memorize it, and you have to understand why you play these moves. So in normal, in Ruy Lopez, here they play the bishop on after castle, they play the bishop on e7. They don't take the pawn. If you want the real Ruy Lopez, they play bishop e7. And you protect the pawn by rook e1. There's another variation. You can start with c3 and play d4. You can play c3 and leave the pawn. That's another variation, but the engine says that black is better somehow here, but still equal. I think best move is rook e1, as I said. He will castle, or I think b5 first. b5 is crucial in Ruy Lopez for black. You return with the bishop. You have to make sure that the bishop, white bishop, is the most important piece in Ruy Lopez, this bishop. So you don't exchange the bishop with knight, because this bishop is very strong here, and if you put it in c2, it will be very strong. That's what I remember when I had a trainer and he told me about Ruy Lopez. You have to protect this bishop. So c3 will be crucial, and you use your bishop from here. After he played b5, you return with the bishop, he will castle. Okay. You have to play c3 to protect your bishop, because sometimes they can play knight a5 and you lose this bishop. Here, black can play d6. Some variations, they play d5 but in another situation, but here they play d6. I think there's also d5 here. Like, there's two variations, but the variation that I know more is d6. We will see also d5, but let's see d6. You play, you have d4 and you have h3. h3 is easy and simple, so he don't play his bishop to g4 and pin your knight and queen. So h3 is more important here, I think. You are annoying black, like black wants to use his bishop, but he can't put his bishop on g4 now. He can put the bishop on b7. Here he play knight a5 attacking a bishop. You don't ever give him this bishop. You play bishop c2 in Ruy Lopez. He plays c5. You can play d4 now, after you already played h3. And I think now Ruy Lopez is finished. You have the choice if you want to make it a close game and play d5, or to make an open game and try to take the pawns. Um, Also, there's something else in Ruy Lopez. You play knight d2, knight f1, and you play knight g3, and you try to use your knight from here. Or you can put the knight on e3, but you have to make sure you are defending this pawn. That's a variation I know when he played d6. But d5, I'm not sure that I know really a lot about d5, because there's some tactics, really hard tactics in d5, because he will take with knight. I will try to remember when I am checking now. There's some tactics with black are very picky, like you can lose the whole game if you didn't play completely right. If he played d5, like after he played d5, white is better, but you have to play the best moves. I used to know this variation. I will check it now. So knight takes e5. You take the pawn now. That's a free pawn. You have to take the pawn. He will take, and you take with rook. Somehow I'm trying to remember it. Because there was some attack on the queen. Bishop b7 or knight f6. In knight f6, you play d4. He played bishop b7. He gave one free pawn, like black gave a free pawn, but he have strong bishop, strong knight, and a strong another bishop, and somehow he can like attack the queen and attack the rook. So as I told you, you have to be careful when you play versus d5, because that's like a variation too tricky. You have to play every move right with white. I remember I blundered when I was playing Blitz. uh, I used to play a lot of Ruy Lopez, so if someone played this, you can blunder easily with white. You can try also to play with black if you want to play Ruy Lopez with black. Let's see if you are playing black here. Do you think black is in trouble? Like black has two strong bishops. Okay, two strong bishops and strong knight. You didn't develop this bishop, you didn't develop this knight. White is still better, as I told you. You are still better, but you have to play the right moves here. What I remember that there's still two moves or three moves in this variation, and it is over. Like that's the opening of Ruy Lopez. I showed after d6 what you have to do. You have to protect the bishop, and that's the variation if you play d5. I use sometimes if I don't want trouble when he play d5, like for me myself, I can ignore it. You can ignore the attack, play for example d4. You are ignoring the attack, the game will be more equal. Like at first white is better, but here it will be more equal, but easier. It will be easier for white. Like for example, if you take this, you take this. If you take the knight, you take. You're attacking the queen. You take. You take. You play knight g4. You defend the pawn with bishop, or you can play knight d2 attacking the pawn, and he's attacking the pawn at the same time. But here is more defensive. Like when you play d4, you are trying to run away from the tactics of d5. I suggest you play d5. You don't enter this variation. A lot of tactics, if you take this pawn, you make it easier and you play d4. More easier. So to summarize again, you start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight c6. You play bishop b5, attacking the knight, defending the pawn. You play e6, you return with bishop. You play knight f6, you castle. You play bishop e7. You play rook e1. You castle, and you play c3. Okay. He will play d6, or he will play b5 first. You can just play bishop c2, because if you play bishop b3 here, he will play knight a5 as I showed you, and you will go to bishop c2 again. So just go to bishop c2 right now. Don't do the same move twice, because right now he will take a tempo. He played d6. To play bishop g4, you play h3. You play the bishop, for example, from here. You play d4. He will play rook e8. You play your knight to d2 as I told you. Then you will play knight f1, and you play knight g3. And to put your knight on f5, because his bishop now in b7. And that's it. Right now white have a small advantage. I hope you enjoyed it, and I explained it well. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it. I will try to make more openings videos about what I know. Like I know Sicilian overall, Queen's Gambit, and Ruy Lopez. I made a video before on Queen's Gambit. I will share the video now, and that's a video about Ruy Lopez. I know that some of you want some easy openings like London, like Vienna, like Karukan. I will try to make videos about these openings. So thanks for watching.